Embrace life with a change for the better. Challenge your comfort zone with Glenn Miller, your personal comfort zone coach, enabling you, in whatever way you may need to step outside your comfort zone. The Outside Your Comfort Zone podcast explores proactive and practical tips based on years of lessons learned and expert skills and advice that will enable you to accomplish more. Each episode puts a spotlight on topics and experts in their field who will compel you to action and to get more things done outside your comfort zone.
Welcome back to another episode of Outside Your Comfort Zone with Glenn Miller. So in episode 2, I spoke about time and what to do with yours. This podcast started the 18th of May, 2021. And I cannot believe it's been over a year. But the good news is we've had 1,137 listens, and that audience is growing, which is fantastic. I also attended some webinars recently, and we're just getting started formally promoting the podcast. But there's so much more work to be done and so many more lives I want to help change. But it's important we do this together. So a quick plug, I suppose, to share the podcast, please, because if you don't ask, you don't get. A special shout out to my friends in the Philippines who've embraced the Outside Your Comfort Zone podcast tremendously. Thank you so much. Please engage, reach out anytime, and keep spreading the good word. Please remember, if you don't subscribe to the podcast on your device of choice, you will not get notified about new episodes. So do that. Also, do yourself a favor. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing and you like what you hear, invite a friend to the podcast. So one episode at a time, one little nugget may change their lives for the better. I'm not going to lie, there's been a bit of a dry patch in my episode cadence, and I apologize for that. I had a little gap for the past couple months. Writers get writer's block. I'm not sure what the accurate term is for podcasters experiencing writer's block, but maybe we can call it pod block. I've been kind of a victim, I think, to pod block, but in the true spirit of my proactive mentality, I refuse to accept responsibility for this block. And therefore, I prefer to look at it as why the gap happened. How to prevent it, how to make sure it's avoidable in future. This is where the impetus for this episode came from. To fix a problem means identifying the root cause of an issue, the source of the problem. But this assumes you're aware of the problem in the first place. And sometimes problems creep up on us and we don't realize it. Maybe this is in the form of a bad habit or some other bugbear in your life that suddenly appears and it's been hanging around maybe. Maybe now that I mention it, you might identify such habits in your life. Sometimes we notice these issues or bad habits or feelings, and sometimes we don't. But if we're really lucky, then sometimes people close to us or the most unexpected of people, or at least something unexpected becomes, or someone, I should say, becomes a bit of an angel to us, making us aware, making us able to become aware and actually address that bad seed, if that's what we want, especially where addressing it is going to make a huge impact for us for the better. I have to share a quick and interesting story that is a catalyst that caused me to identify the problem of this pod block for me in the first place, that the problem actually existed. This is a story about challenging that quit mentality and how the hustle of someone else, someone outside your immediate circle or bubble, can have a profound impact on you and much more than you'll ever know. The hustle of someone unfamiliar can really shake things up and force a hand and expedite a super quick outcome if you're open to it. So Darcy, my podcast producer, called me up a couple of weeks ago and asked me if I wanted to delete the podcast. And this is obviously the segue to the pod block, right, that I had. So I can't tell you how my heart sunk. There's so much effort and energy and meaning for me behind the podcast that in 1 second, it made me furious inside when he said, "Do you want to delete the podcast?" Because I felt that I'd let myself down. And it's because of the gap in time between episodes. So if you've been listening to my podcasts, you'll be the first to have noticed that I kind of haven't followed my own advice in one of my own mantras, which is totally unacceptable. And that mantra is planning to fail, should I rather say. In the split second after Darcy said delete, like the reality kicked in hard. All the energy, all the effort plowed into this production, now held up and by me. The delete bomb shook me. And I actually thought it was a tactic of his to hustle me and hustle me hard. So in the next minute, I said to Darcy that not only do I not want to delete the podcast, but I actually need his help. And I asked him, how can we flip this around? And he said, well, mate, you just got to keep recording. And I said, I'll tell you what, let's flip this around and make the podcast an award-winning podcast. Never mind deleting it. And his answer was for us to set the plan in motion and get it done, which leads me to this very episode. So it's with that in mind that I'd like to remind you that it's that time of the year when we start feeling a little pressure. It's now December 2022. And in 1 month, that clock will strike 2023. We feel pressure at this time of the year because with all things new on the horizon, like a new year, human intuition feels the change in the environment. And this change brings with it instinctual need to also reflect on the past, on where we've come from, the influences, and how we go forward. We tend to reflect on our achievement, which are sometimes good and sometimes bad. Maybe we didn't achieve things. In any case, my greatest wish for this episode is for you to walk away thinking about a plan, and doing so, considering your mentality and your mindset, because they are the difference that will potentially set 2023 apart from previous years if you realize it. How can I make 2023 the greatest year of your life is my question. And by owning it is how. It's that simple. You taking ownership of the plan for 2023. So let me explain a little more and equip you to do so. And then you can go forward and attack your 2023 like never before and get back on the horse. Now, I've named this episode Get Back on the Horse. And what do I mean by get back on the horse? And in case anyone out there does not know what I mean in getting back on the horse, I'm going to use a quick experience that I had earlier this year to wrap that one up. The term getting back on the horse revolves around a horse rider. Why she gets bucked off the horse is less important. It could have been a crazy horse. It could have been an obstacle in the horse's path that caused the horse to stop abruptly or buck the rider off the horse. It could have also been the rider that caused some annoyance to the horse. Now, none of that is really relevant to the outcome. Once the rider fell off the horse, the choice of the rider was to walk 100 miles back to the barn before sunset or get back on the horse to ride to the barn. In all scenarios, the best outcome for the rider, the environment, and the horse is to get back on the horse and ride back to the barn before sunset. Now, sometimes there's a fear in having got bucked off that horse where the rider doesn't want to get on the horse in the fear of being bucked off the horse again. February this year, I fell off the horse literally. I fell off my mountain bike and I dislocated my shoulder. By pushing off a tree and trying to prevent the injury, I only caused the injury itself. So I had an operation to stabilize the shoulder, incurring a 6-month recovery. I endured discipline and a rigorous training program, and I'm delighted to say that after completing a weekend in Tasmania mountain bike riding a couple of weeks ago, it was the best downhill mountain bike riding, by the way, in Australia, I'm now back on track. So the moral of my story is not the happy ending alone, or only about the rider getting back on the horse and kind of confronting that fear. I mean, that's just part of it. But the point is that if we slip up or we slack off and we realize that we've fallen off the horse, or we realize these fears, more importantly, alongside getting back on the horse is the plan, right? That once we're on the horse, we're getting back on the horse is also getting back to the barn before sunset. So this is the core to this episode, right? A plan and the right mindset and the right mentality behind that plan. So however simple a metaphor this is, the story about the rider and the horse take place for us all every day, in one way or another. And I'm going to emphasize those words after the plan, the mindset and the mentality, because I've chosen those words very carefully to sit beside planning, to show you how easy it can be to change or create your plan immediately, like tomorrow, because tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. And then you can plan to do so from 2023 onward. So looking at those two words, mentality and mindset, and mainly the differences between the two, women, mothers, and I am generalizing here for the sake of an example, but let's say mothers between 25 and 40 years old, they don't tend to think about themselves much during that motherhood. And I talk from experience, I should say, when observing my own wife through that age period. We all change from our earlier years, but mothers especially, they think all about the family first. And I mean, even if it's just two in the family, husband and wife, a partnership. And even so, when the children come along, the mentality of the mother is to think about the family, and their way of thinking slowly changes when they hit their 40s and the kids get a bit older maybe and on their own feet, and mum is slowly living her own life again and getting back on track for herself and doing it much, much harder mentally and emotionally. It can be a little bit challenging. And for working mums, even more so, like mental illness or anxiety is easily overlooked too. And for men, it's no different, by the way, minus the physical motherhood. Of course, we don't have labor, and couples experience it the same way. So by definition, that's just basic examples, but mentality is a way of thinking versus mindset. And I think the point I'm making is that if you're in the wrong mindset, then having a plan, future planning is really difficult. Things like, excess weight or the wrong mindset is heavily impacted on mentality and vice versa. But mindset is an established set of attributes held by someone. That's the definition. And mentality is a way of thinking. We have both of these. We own them. You hold them and you can manipulate them anytime and any way you choose. But the question is, do you? So maybe you've never stopped to think about that or any of this, but connected to these two words, mentality and mindset, are two more powerful words: confidence and control. So you might have the mindset and the mentality for change, but you may lack the confidence to do so and the control to get started. So if mentality is a way of thinking, then we must realize we can confidently take control of our mentality and how we think. And if mindset is an established set of attitudes, we must realize we can take control of our mindset to affect and impact change tomorrow. I'll share another thought I had recently to reinforce how important it can be to change your mindset and mentality, and how it's never too late, but more importantly, being confident and in control to do so consistently. So if you read or listen to books, or you have any famous celebrities that you follow on social media or that you aspire to or towards, their fame, their fame and status was never always that way. It's more than likely that they started out as ordinary, normal people, just like you and me. You might not have realized it, but in most cases, these people, on most occasions, they didn't start out that way. They write about it in their books, or as you see them today in social media, but it wasn't always the fame that it is made out to be. And in most cases, repetition and consistency and learning and growing and building on mistakes of the past or day-by-day victories led to their long-term gain, the long-term fame and success. And inevitably, for each one of them, there was the same effort and impact of small incremental changes, consistent changes, one at a time, that ultimately led to them documenting their success, which we then interpret and read and listen to. So how do we create change to last a lifetime? And the answer, I believe, is consistency. Just like they write about small incremental change, or they did one thing that led to the next. But it actually also comes down to mindset and mentality. How you have seen things and how you have done things or have not acted on them, but more importantly, how you can modify both tomorrow for the better and relative to your personal circumstances. You can change your mindset and you can own your mentality. So I'm certain that there are a few examples you can think of things in your life, your relationships, your environment, that you may want to positively change for the better immediately tomorrow. And I'm really hoping you are seeing the light here. And hopefully this podcast can act as a bit of a guide of exactly how to do it for yourself. So if you think about your mindset and you think about your mentality, your attitude to things, have you been in the right frame of mind? Maybe you can change. What was your attitude? What has your attitude been? Were you open and receptive to the environment around you, or closed-minded with a closed mindset? If you were, or you have been, you can actually start changing that tomorrow. So if you took a minute here and just thought about some examples, that's an immediate opportunity for you to change going into the new year. So the other part of that is, having an open mind and having receptors open to the world around you means that you're able to think about taking control of those things. And I've done episodes before about meditation with Denise Schlapp, the masseuse that I frequent, as well as she does meditations as well around yoga. But you can take control over your life like never before when your mind is open and you have that mindset and being true and real and honest with yourself. So the other question is, are you confident? Maybe not. Maybe you haven't been confident because you haven't stopped to think about these things. You may not be a confident person by nature, but that doesn't mean you can work on it. So taking a minute from your busy routine and just thinking about yourself and, do you have a plan? And I think lastly, that plan is the most important part of all, that the plan can include all of the above and trying to fix them or trying to change these things. And it can also be about small change, incremental change, one step at a time. And that way we can ensure that things get done when we have a plan to go out and implement them. So concluding the story I shared earlier, the good news is that I've built my runway well into 2023 for future episodes for the podcast. And I'm, again, had Darcy not called me up and hustled me a little bit, I probably wouldn't have done that. So in a sec, you'll see how I built that plan out. But I implore you to sit down and do the same with your future. As I said, tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. Take the time to lock in time for yourself. And if tomorrow is not possible, put it in your diary for the day after or some other forward date. And when that appointment comes, sit down and be real with yourself. If need be, stand in front of the mirror, literally, and ask yourself some tough questions. And if you're not sure what questions to ask, here you go. I said, I'll give you the guide on exactly how to do this. So ask yourself, what is my mentality? What is my mindset? Actually give thought to examples. Someone was talking to you, have an argument, you've shut them down, things have frustrated you. And then ask, am I in control? And, am I confident? And do I have a plan? So repeating the most important parts. mindset, mentality, confidence, control, and have a plan. It's that easy. So start there, and I guarantee you the rest will fall into place. I guarantee it. And before we go, one more tip to get you on your way. You can also do this by yourself or with a family member, a child, a parent, a grandparent, a friend, a cousin, anyone. As I always do this time of the year, I've started to review my bucket list. Sometimes it helps doing it with someone, sometimes, most times by yourself, I think. But I've also started my 2024 bucket list whilst sitting down and working through 2023, because this is the nature of the planning exercise. And I encourage you to do the same. So we only have days left in 2023, literally, to finalize our lists. And I've included mine in the show notes to give you a bit of an idea. And again, this is quite personal, so I'm jumping out of my comfort zone in doing that. But I also share my past years so you can see my growth and trajectory and how important it's been to actually lock in that bucket list and get things done. And without that bucket list written down, I wouldn't have got it done. But it's quite amazing to actually see what was accomplished. And I've only been doing this exercise for 2 or 3 years, and it's made huge leaps and bounds. And it's all about having that plan, and that bucket list effectively is the plan for the year. So it's about what I did and why, what I didn't do. And this may inspire you as well for yours and the types of things you can include on your list as well. I've put in the 2022 list, and I've put in what I've ticked off and what I've got done. And I've then moved into 2023. So some examples for me are to read 7 books, complete an expedition through New Zealand, 7 days, more than 15,000 kilometer climb, start playing the guitar again, run a 100-kilometer event nonstop, which I'm training for, do another adventure race, complete a stand-up paddle event formally, get the family sporty and get out there as always, run some webinars regularly at work, put a deeper investment into humanity. That's something I have to work out, but at least that's on the list. And then completing at least 8 podcast episodes, which have all been documented already. And then I've got my 2024 list. So lastly, as a reminder, why I'm here is to inspire you and help you do the same for others. And here's a reminder how you can do the same and how to include and inspire others. You can go share this with them, change your environment, learn something new, get back to nature, visit new local places, try new things, learn something new that you always wished you had, get more from your time, get more value from your time, and stimulate something new inside of you. So those are a nice list of options. If you're not sure what you could put on your list or how to get you started, that's a good catalyst. But most importantly, if you like this podcast episode, please subscribe now and share it with others. And if you don't, tell me why you don't like it and what topic you'd prefer or what topics might inspire you outside your comfort zone. And so that I can and I will shape future episodes around your feedback. As always, thanks for listening. I'm Glenn Miller. Get outside your comfort zone.
Thanks for listening to Outside Your Comfort Zone with Glenn Miller, your comfort zone coach. If you like what you hear, help spread the word. Subscribe to the podcast and invite a friend. For show notes, links, and extra goodies, visit comfortzonecoach.com.au.